Exercise 6. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at some of the functionality built into AutoCAD Inventor version 13. We'll begin at looking at the drawing tools that are available here. And actually, this is our goal, is to create this quick little A-size drawing. So, begin now. First thing you want to do is go to File, Open, and in your sample files directory you should be able to locate the E6 I part. Be careful, there's a drawing in there too. We don't want the drawing, we just want the E6 part, which is just yellow block next to the E6, and it should preview as such in the screen there. Go ahead and hit Open. And might ask you, because this was done in an earlier version of Inventor, might prompt you for some appearances now. Just hit yes. And you could hit yes again. Alright, now this part is just like a bell housing. Basically, you just enhance the view a little bit so you can see a little bit better on the screen. Okay. So basically our goal is to create a drawing of this. To do this, we just go to the top where it says iPro and a little arrow, go to New, and find Drawing. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to bring us into a drawing. Now if you want to keep this drawing, that's fine, but this is a C size that it defaulted to. So we might actually want to go to something a little bit different. A little smaller so we can print it out in class. So on the left hand side here you'll see ANSI large, and you'll see sheet, and basically from here you'll want to go ahead and find the drawing resources folder. Hit the plus symbol to the left of it, and in there you'll find sheet formats, borders, and title blocks and other information. We're looking for the A-size landscape, so just double click on it with your left mouse button and it'll prompt you select component, just hit OK, and it will bring in a smaller size drawing, and it actually brings in one of your views. Before we go any further though, you'll see that there's sheet 1 and sheet 2. You could actually now delete sheet 1 just by right clicking on it, and actually if you select delete sheet, I'll remove that. That was our C size. We don't need to have that additional sheet here right now. But if you ever wanted to add sheets, that's all you do. You just double click on one of these and you could continue to add additional sheets. Okay, the first thing we'll do is we'll grab this, and you just do this by taking your pointer and getting the tip of it over the edge of the border that appears around the view, and you could drag it down. Now we might actually want to change the scale on this. A double click on it with the left mouse button brings up some of the options for the drawing view. First of all, the drawing scale is set to 1 to 1. Let's go ahead and change it 1 to 2. And then over here on the right we have Style, and let's go with Hidden Lines Removed. Now if you want hidden lines, obviously you could go with that. And shaded, you could go with that as well if you like. Now let's go to Model State, and you'll see that most of the options are kind of grayed out at this point. But if we go to display options, there's one additional option, which is tangent edges, and you could turn on foreshortened or just leave it off. I'll just leave foreshortened off and just go with tangent edges. And what that will do is that will actually show the edges where the fillets blend into other faces, so it doesn't just look like a glob of nothingness. So go ahead and hit OK, and you can see it's now made this a little bit more tolerable for the size sheet. The next thing I want to show you how to do is put in views, or place views as it's called in Autodesk Inventor. Over here at the very top there's a Place Views tab. There's also an Annotate tab. That's what you would use for putting dimensions in and text and notes. There's a tool for document and application options. But really, what might be confusing is with the document options here is actually in the styles editor. This is where you can change the fonts of notes and different things like that and set up your own customized settings. So we'll go back to that in a little bit. But for right now, let's go back to place views. And you'll see there's several options. We're just looking for projected. Go ahead and select projected. And now as long as your view was selected there, you should have a projection occurring by moving your pointer on the screen. Now you could actually move it to the right and get a right side view. You can move it to the top, get a top view. You can move it at an angle, get an isometric view. Well, let's start with the top view. Just move a little bit above the view so it's not overlapping, and click. Then move your pointer to the right to create your right side view, and once you're distance away, click. And don't worry, they don't appear right away. And then the isometric view we want in the upper right hand corner, so click again. Now you could right click, and to the right of that you'll see create, and we'll generate those three views. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and you could position these just by grabbing the little edge of the border and dragging them with the left mouse button. You'll notice that the views are locked into alignment initially. That can be changed pretty easily, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But the isometric view is free floating, has no alignment set up. But now we want to go ahead and create another type of view, a section view. So go to section view up here, click on it, and then glide up to this top view. And you should be able to usually get an inference here. Hold on a second. Let me just select it ahead of time. Okay. You'll have to click on the view first. So just with the section view on, actually, then select one time the edge, and it will highlight it. And then you can see you get an inference line. And once you get the inference line to the center, and make sure your point is off to the left a little bit, maybe a centimeter or so, click and drag through all the way through, and again balance it off on the right hand side so it's about the same distance away. This is to give room for your arrows that are going to appear in a second for your section. So click again, and now instead of chaining this, which you could continue on to make like a zigzag profile, we don't want to do that here. We just want to right click and continue. Now if you zoom out with your scroll on your mouse, you can make some room and then drag this straight up. Now section view scale might appear, but as soon as you drop it, it disappears. And if you ever want to edit that, you can just double click and it brings you back. So you could make changes to that particular view. Once you move this and relocate it, make yourself a little bit of space between every item. And for the text, all you have to do is click on it one time, and then you can drag it with the left mouse button with another depress of the left mouse button. We'll go ahead and change that font style because it's rather large, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. But for right now, let's continue adding views. The first half of this lesson is all based on adding views, and then the second half we'll go ahead and take a look at the annotations and dimensions we could add. Now for the auxiliary view, find that. Go ahead and select auxiliary view, and maybe zoom up a little bit to this view, but give yourself some space over here, because an auxiliary view basically unfolds off of a selected edge of the model. Once you have auxiliary view selected and you are zoomed up, go ahead and select this edge on the right hand side of that flange. Click on it again, so it's basically 2 clicks, and then drag it off in alignment wherever you'd like to position it. Like I'm going to put it right there by clicking. Okay, so there's an auxiliary view. So we've covered unfolding views, we've covered also section views, isometric views, and so on. Now the next thing we're going to do is put in a detail view. We'll put it in over here. So I'm going to zoom up a little closer to the section view. So go to detail view, and then in this vicinity here in the upper right quadrant or corner, click 2 times. Drag out a little circle. And then you'll see it will create a preview. You could go ahead and click and drop that. And in the dialog box that appeared a moment ago, you could have changed it from a smooth circular edge to this jagged edge. It was defaulting to jagged edge. But we could change that also in just a minute. But what I'd like to show you next is you can actually grab this little letter C here and just drag it to relocate it if it's overlapping some of the geometry. You could also grab those little dots and expand the view or shrink it down, as well as you could grab the center and relocate that as well just by dragging it with the left mouse button depressed. Again, if you want, you can move the text here. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start adding some dimensions. Oh, actually, there's one more view. The next type of view I'd like to show you is actually how to crop. Now there's break and breakout and slice, but that's a little bit more advanced than I want to cover in this session. They're not very difficult though, but crop at least is a very nice tool. What you could do is you could go to create sketch, and you could use an ellipse or polygon or rectangle or circle. In this case I'm going to use a circle, and I'm going to locate this somewhere in the center there, and I'm going to click and drag a circle around an area that I want to show, and then I want to crop out the rest of it around the outside. So now with that selected, hit Finish Sketch, click on the circle, and now go to Crop. Oops. Okay, I made a little bit of a mistake there. Just go ahead and delete that circle that you drew just by clicking on it and hitting the delete key. Be sure, before you start a sketch on a particular view, make sure you click on the view so it's selected. You can see the little border around it. Now go to Create Sketch. And from here you could go ahead and, again, select whichever type of entity you want to use and click. In this case I'm going to drag a circle around this specific area. Hit Finish Sketch, select the circle, and hit Crop. And it'll take out all the rest of the geometry there. If you do want to delete that crop view for some reason, over here on the left in the feature tree you'll find crop, and you could always just right click and hit delete and it will bring back the view as it was before. Okay, now we're going to look at some of the annotations and dimensions. So if we go to Annotations, the first thing I want to show you are adding some of the like bolt circles and things like that. So for example, over here we have centered pattern. Glide up to this view that we were just on. Select, after you select centered pattern, select the inner edge, and then go ahead and select every center point, and it will continue on until it's done. Then once you have that completed, you'll have to right mouse button click and hit Create, and it will create the bolt pattern. Now over here we'll just go ahead and create straight ones. So up here there's center mark, and with center mark go ahead and select the outer edge of the large diameter, and then select all these smaller edges of the holes, or the center points if you locate those. Then hit Escape to get out of the center mark tool. Alright, next thing we're going to do is there's a couple ways to add dimensions here. Now there's two main methods where you could just use the dimension tool, which we're familiar with from the 2D Sketcher. If you click on that, you can click on it, basically any edge, and create a dimension. Okay. Same goes with over here. Okay. However, there is another method that might be very useful. Rather than recreating all these dimensions, why not retrieve them from the model when it was built? So you could go to Retrieve, and you select the view, and you can select Features or select Parts, and just hit Select Dimensions. And what happens is you get a cluster of dimensions that appear, and you just pick and choose what you want. So like I want this 27 degrees here. I'll take the 1.75, the 1.5, and any other dimensions that might be useful for this particular view. And I think that's pretty good for right now. Oh, maybe a radius or two. I pretty close. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK, or hit apply first, and you can see a preview of what you selected. Then you could hit cancel after you hit apply. Right, so we have some of these dimensions here that we're able to just drop in that were actually from the model. But maybe some of these might be better suited in different views, like this 27 degrees might actually work well up here. Well, before we get up there and put it there, let's put in a center mark. Right here we have the center mark tool, or center line. And you just select the center point of this hole here to the center point of this there. And then right click and hit create. Now we could go ahead and we're going to grab this 27 degree dimension. Make sure you hit escape to make sure you're out of whatever tool you were in. Find the 27 degree dimension, right click on it, and you'll actually find move dimension. Click on move dimension, and then click on the view you want to drop it into. And it actually cuts it out of one view, puts it in the other. Okay, as far as ordinate dimensions go, let's put some ordinate dimensions on here. Just click on ordinate. Notice there's ordinate and ordinate set. We'll just go with ordinate here. And first select an edge and put in the dowel symbol. And now you can select where you'd want these ordinates put in. So I could click on the center mark, there, and over here. And now right click, continue, drag off the dimensions. Then right click, hit OK. Now if you want to move some of these out of the way, you have the jog feature just by clicking on the dimension, dragging it up or down to locate it. And there's the dog leg, as it's called, or jog feature. You could drag this out and adjust them a bit if you prefer. Okay, now the dimensions are rather large for this sheet. I might actually want to tailor it so they're a little bit smaller. Where you find this is if you go up to the Manage and Styles Editor. Click on Styles Editor. And from here you'll find this is basically the options menu for the drawing. And so for example, we could go to the dimensions here, or we could go to standards and different options. Now with what we selected, we were using the default ANSI template. So under dimensions you'll find default ANSI. And from here you'll see the type of units you could change, the decimal precision, change it to 3.123, and also we'll go ahead and say included zeros for trailing zeros, so if it's 0.120 it actually adds a 0 versus just cutting it short. And then if we go to the text option, for example, we have the tolerance style. Now this is the first one that pops up. And let's go with a smaller 0.08 for the size. Now that's just for the tolerance, which we'll use in a little bit. But for the other options, like for example primary text style, click on the pencil and hit yes if it asks you to save. And then it brings you into some other options here. And you could go ahead, like for example the character format. Instead of Tomahawk, we could go ahead and select maybe a more common option that we see or that we like. In this case I'm going to select Calibri. And then I'm going to set this to 0.08. It should remember my 0.08 from last time, so I could just hit the little arrow. If I want them to be italicized, I could select that as well. Now I just go back, save edits, yes. And then also for the notes and leaders, you'll see we're seeing a little preview there. It looks like it took everything we wanted. Let me make sure. That was for the note text. Let's make sure this is all set up properly. And hit done. And now you can see everything's a bit smaller and it's italicized, so it's all following that format. Now to maximize this to the screen, over on the right here you could hit zoom all basically brings you back home. And that completes this exercise.